I want to start by saying I'm not someone who scares easily. I grew up with two older brothers who made it their personal mission to desensitize me to pretty much everything. Horror movies at age 8. Haunted houses at 10. Jump scares were just Tuesday in my house. By the time I got to college, I genuinely thought of myself as someone who didn't rattle. I want to say that up front, because what I'm about to tell you still bothers me, and it happened 4 years ago. 4 years, and I still think about it when I'm walking across a parking lot at night. I still think about it when I get a notification I don't recognize. I still think about it every single time someone I barely know asks me how I've been, like they already know the answer. I started at Alderton University in the fall of my freshman year. Mid-sized school, about 11,000 students, tucked into a town in the Midwest that I'd never heard of before I applied. It was exactly what I'd pictured college would look like. Brick buildings, wide quads, coffee shops with chalkboard menus. Ordinary in the best way, I moved into the dorms in late August. My roommate was a girl named Priya, who was studying biochem and went to bed at 9:30 every night like clockwork, which worked fine for me because I was still on summer hours and spent most of my first 2 weeks staying up too late, watching videos and texting people from home. I was homesick in that low-grade way that's hard to explain, not crying, just constantly aware that everything around me was new. Every face was a stranger's face. Every hallway smelled different. You know that feeling when you arrive somewhere and you don't know where anything is yet? It was like that, but for my whole life. So I was online a lot, more than I probably should have been. The friend request came in early October. His name was Kyle Brewer. Profile picture was a guy in his mid-20s, brown hair, average looking. The kind of face you'd pass in a grocery store and not remember 5 minutes later. His profile was sparse, not empty, but sparse. A few photos, some posts about sports. A couple of check-ins at places around campus. I looked at it for maybe 30 seconds. Here's the thing about freshman year. You accept a lot of friend requests from people you only half recognize. You meet 200 people in the first 6 weeks. There are people from orientation, people from your classes, people you talk to once at a party and will never see again. Your social media becomes this sprawling web of semi-strangers, and you stop being careful about it because you're young and it feels harmless. I looked at his profile and thought, he probably sat near me in a lecture. I probably just don't remember his name. I accepted the request and forgot about it within the hour. Pacing note. Slow here. Let the mundane settle before the first crack appears. 3 weeks later, I got a DM from him. Hey, haven't seen you around lately. How's your semester going? I stared at it for a second. Tried to place him. Couldn't. I wrote back something vague. Pretty good. Busy with midterms LLU. The way you do when you're too embarrassed to admit you don't know who someone is. He responded quickly. Said he was doing well. Said he hoped midterms weren't too brutal. Normal stuff. We went back and forth for maybe 5 or 6 messages, and I still had no idea who I was talking to. Eventually, I'd let the conversation trail off the way conversations do, and I moved on. But it nagged at me a little, not in a scary way, just in that low-level, who is this person way. So, a few days later, I went back to his profile to look more carefully. That's when I noticed the likes. I don't know what made me check. Maybe it was instinct, maybe I was just bored. But I went to my own profile, my photos specifically, and I started scrolling through the likes on old posts. His name kept appearing, not on recent stuff, on old stuff. Photos from sophomore year of high school, a picture of me and my best friend at prom. A group photo from a family vacation when I was 16, a birthday post from 3 years ago that I'd basically forgotten existed. He'd liked 43 photos. The oldest one was from 2019. Pacing note, let that number sit. Don't rush past it. I told myself there was an explanation. Maybe he'd been going through my profile after sending the request. Maybe he was one of those people who just likes things without thinking about it, who clicks through albums out of habit. I'd done that myself on other people's pages, not as far back as 2019, but still, people do weird things on social media. It doesn't mean anything. I checked when his account was made, August 29th. That was 2 days after I'd moved into the dorms. His account was 5 weeks old, and he'd liked photos going back 4 years. I called my friend Natalie, one of my best friends from home, someone I'd known since middle school. Do you know a Kyle Brewer? I asked her. She said she didn't think so. Did I ever mention someone named Kyle from school or anywhere? She thought about it. Said no. I asked her to check to look at her own Facebook, see if there was a Kyle Brewer in our mutual network. She came up empty. I tried to find him through the university directory, nothing. I tried to find his check-ins. He'd checked in a few times at places near campus, the library, a sandwich place on the main strip. I cross-referenced those with my own timeline. He'd checked in at the library on a Tuesday at 2 in the afternoon. I had a class that ended at 1:50 in the building, right next to the library. I walked past it every week. I told myself that was a coincidence. I know how this sounds so far. I know it sounds like I was spiraling over nothing, over a sparse social media profile and a handful of coincidences. And look, I'm a pretty rational person. I knew that. I was actively arguing against myself the whole time. It's a coincidence. People scroll through old photos. He probably knows you from somewhere you've both forgotten. I almost talked myself out of caring about it completely. And then I looked at his friends list. He had 61 friends. I went through all of them. Most of them were names I didn't recognize at all. No mutual connections, no context. But a few of them I did recognize. There was a girl named Sienna who'd been 2 grades ahead of me in high school. We weren't close, but I knew who she was. I clicked on her profile. She went to a school about 40 minutes from Alderton. There was a guy named Marcus who I vaguely remembered from a summer camp I'd gone to when I was 14. A single summer, a decade ago. And I barely remembered his last name. There was a girl named Brittany, who I recognized immediately. She'd been in my orientation group at Alderton. I'd talked to her exactly once, the first weekend of school. None of them were close to me. None of them were people I'd stayed in touch with. They were the fringe people from the edges of my life. People I could picture but couldn't quite place. Why would someone I'd never met have all of them as Facebook friends? Pacing note. Let the question hang. This is the turn. I messaged Sienna that night. I kept it casual. Said I'd seen we had a mutual friend and I was trying to place him. She responded the next morning. Oh, Kyle? Honestly, I'm not sure how I know him. I think he added me a while back and I just accepted. He messaged me once to say hi, but I never really talked to him after that. I messaged Brittany. Same thing. Kyle had added her during the first week of school. She'd accepted because she thought he was someone from orientation. He'd sent her one DM friendly, generic, and then nothing. I messaged Marcus. He took 2 days to respond. I have no idea who that is. I don't remember adding him. I want to stop here and tell you about the thing that scared me most. Not the likes, not the account creation date, not the overlapping friends. The thing that scared me most was how reasonable everything seemed on the surface. His messages to me were normal. His messages to Sienna and Brittany were normal. His profile looked like a regular low-activity Facebook profile. If you glanced at it, you'd think, okay, some guy who doesn't post much. Nothing alarming, nothing obviously wrong. That's what kept me second-guessing myself. Because there was no single thing I could point to and say, this is proof. It was only when you laid everything next to each other that it started to look like something. An account made the week I arrived at school. 43 likes on photos going back 4 years. A friends list full of people from the periphery of my life who all had the same vague story. I'm not sure how I know him. I reported the account. Facebook's process was, and I say this with love, essentially useless. I filed a report. I got an automated response. The account stayed up. I went to the campus safety office and explained the situation to a woman behind a desk who listened very patiently and then explained to me that without a direct threat, there wasn't much they could do. She was kind about it. She gave me a pamphlet about digital safety. She told me to document everything. I went home that night and screenshotted everything, and then I blocked the account, blocked it, and tried to let it go. For about 2 weeks, I almost managed. Midterms hit. I got busy. Life has a way of filling in the space that fear carves out, at least temporarily. I stopped looking over my shoulder as much. I stopped replaying the friends list in my head. And then in early November, something happened that I still don't have a complete explanation for. I was walking to the dining hall on a Thursday afternoon. It was cold, that particular Midwest cold that shows up in November and makes you feel like you made a wrong turn somewhere. I had my hood up, headphones in, not really paying attention to the people around me. Someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around. It was a guy I'd never seen before. Brown hair, mid-20s, average looking. The kind of face you'd pass in a grocery store and not remember. He smiled. Hey Maya, right? I took my headphones out. Yeah? I thought that was you. I'm Kyle. Pacing note. Dead stop, let it breathe. At least 3 seconds before the next line. I don't remember exactly what I said. I remember my whole body going very still, that animal stillness that happens when your brain is processing something faster than your mouth can keep up with. He kept smiling. It wasn't a threatening smile, that was the thing. He looked completely normal. He looked like someone who'd just run into a person he knew. I said something like, "Oh, hey." Automatic, stupid. I didn't know what else to do. He asked me how midterms went. I said, fine. He said he was heading to the library, that he had a paper due. He talked for maybe 90 seconds, normal, forgettable things, and then he said it was good to run into me and kept walking. I stood there on the path for a long moment. Then I went back to my dorm, locked the door, and sat on the edge of my bed for a very long time. He knew my name. We had never spoken in person. We had never been introduced. I had never told him my name. My Facebook profile at the time didn't have my last name on it. It was a nickname thing, something I did after a high school ex had been weird about social media. My first name was on there, just my first name. And my first name is not unusual. There were probably 40 Mayas at Alderton. But he'd picked me out of a crowd on a cold Thursday afternoon and said, Maya, right? Like he already knew the answer. I went back through everything I'd screenshotted. I looked at his photos again, the few he'd posted publicly, before I blocked him. Most of them were generic, landscapes, a sports meme, one photo of what looked like a meal at a restaurant. I looked at the restaurant photo more carefully. The restaurant was the dining hall, our dining hall. The photo was taken from a seat near the windows on the east side, a spot I recognized because I sat near there sometimes. The photo was posted September 14th, 3 weeks after I'd arrived at school. I went to the campus safety office again. Different person this time, a man named Officer Dillard, who had the manner of someone who'd heard everything twice. I laid it all out for him. The account, the likes, the friends list, the conversation on the path, the dining hall photo. He listened. He asked questions. He wrote things down. He told me the photo wasn't enough to prove anything people ate at the dining hall. The name recognition was concerning but hard to act on without more. He said if I saw the person again to call them immediately, not to engage, to go somewhere with other people. He asked if I wanted to file a formal report. I said yes. He told me it would be on record, but that they couldn't take action without more evidence of a direct threat. I said, what counts as a direct threat? He looked at me for a moment. Explicit communication or physical contact. I didn't sleep well that night. Pacing note. Shift the pace slightly here. Shorter sentences clipped. The anxiety should come through in the rhythm. I didn't see him again after that, not that I could confirm anyway. That's the thing about a face like his. Ordinary, unmemorable. There were days I'd walk across campus and think I saw him, and then realize I wasn't sure. I'd look twice at guys in the library. I started sitting with my back to the wall in the dining hall. I changed my Facebook settings, made everything private, friends only, stripped out almost all my personal information. I went through every connected account I had and tightened every permission. I went through my old photos and thought about how many of them existed on the internet, where they'd been posted, who could see them, which ones had location data embedded in the file. I thought about how much a person could piece together if they looked carefully enough. It's a lot. The answer is a lot. We don't think about it because we don't want to think about it. Because thinking about it means sitting with the uncomfortable truth that a determined stranger can build a detailed picture of your life from things you posted without a second thought at 15, 16, 17 years old. Your school, your friends, your neighborhood, your face at every age. I looked into it afterward, into this kind of behavior, what it's called, what it means. There's a specific pattern that investigators and researchers have documented. Someone who systematically identifies a target, builds familiarity through digital channels, and creates low-stakes touchpoints to establish presence before ever making direct contact. It's a form of surveillance that doesn't look like surveillance. It looks like a friend request. It looks like a like on an old photo. It looks like a DM asking how your semester is going. By the time anything happens, if anything happens, the person already knows your schedule, your routine, your face, your name, and you've already let them in. The account was still up when I last checked, about 6 months after I blocked it. I don't know if Kyle Brewer is a real name. I don't know who he was or what he wanted. I never found out. Nothing else happened. No more messages, no more conversations on the path, nothing I could point to and say there, that's proof. Maybe he got bored. Maybe he moved on. Maybe I did enough the blocking, the privacy settings, the campus report to make me not worth the effort anymore. Or maybe I just never noticed the parts that came after. That's the thing I've had to make peace with, the not knowing, the absence of a resolution that ties it together and tells you what it meant. Because real life doesn't usually give you that. Real life gives you a strange feeling in your gut, a name you can't quite place, and a list of 43 likes on photos you'd almost forgotten existed. And you're left to decide what to do with that. I still check my followers list every few weeks. I still look twice at faces I half recognize. I don't think I'll ever fully stop.